Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all. And of course, we've got a lot to cover today. It's a Labor Day holiday, but I'm going to be live here today. We're not going to be on the radio today, just on YouTube. We're going to have a podcast episode. And let me get. And I will be taking live calls. I'm just setting up here. Well, that's not good. How did that happen? Hold on, I got to fix something here before we go live. I'm just setting up, guys. Bear with me. There we go. Okay. We're about ready to go. Let me just check the phones. Okay, just turn the phones on. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, we have so much to cover on the program today. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome. We got a lot to cover here, and I'm going to cover a lot. I will be taking your calls as well, but we've got a lot to cover. I am going to get very much into what CBS News did with Christy Noem's interview that they edited. This is a very important thing. I'm going to cover it all, and it's very important. But I want to get into this Mayor Giuliani accident because as soon as I heard that Mayor Giuliani had been in a car accident, this was yesterday, late in the day yesterday. When I first heard he was in a car accident, my first thought was, oh my goodness, I hope he's okay because he's like 81, right? And then the first story that I heard that dropped online about the Mayor Giuliani accident was insane. And the story with Mayor Giuliani's car accident is getting more and more mysterious all the time. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Make sure you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are tuned in on. All right, so the original story, I'm going to give you the latest update in a minute from the Associated Press, but the original story that came out was Mayor Giuliani had been in a car accident, he's been hospitalized, he's been hurt bad, and the story that came out was this, that he was driving, it was in New Hampshire, and he saw a young woman in distress on the side of the highway. He stopped to help the young woman, and then boom, he got rear-ended and got into this massive car accident and has been hospitalized. Now, what was your thought when you first heard that story? My first thought was, this was not an accident. This was not an accident. Now, I don't know. I'm going to read you the latest update in a moment, but here's why I thought that. You guys got to understand something. Mayor Giuliani, and this is what I haven't really heard people talk about, but it is a holiday weekend, so the news is a little slower than normal maybe, but Mayor Giuliani is the man. He was working for Trump's campaign. Mayor Giuliani is the man who uncovered the Hunter Biden laptop. Remember, the computer repair shop guy took the hard drive and gave it to Mayor Giuliani. And that has caused a lot of problems for the enemies of Trump. You know, we've had this recent FBI search of John Bolton's home and office, and there's a major update on that I'm going to get to on the program as well. So stay tuned. We got a lot to go through. Holiday weekends don't slow down in this country with President Trump in the White House. And these deep state people, I saw Brennan over the weekend was talking about the financial trouble that he's in because of all of this that's going on with Trump. Right? So as far as these people are concerned, they're cornered. Some of them may go to jail. They're panicked. They're being financially wrecked. And they blame Mayor Giuliani for a lot of their problems. And to me, when I first heard the story yesterday, he saw a young woman broken down on the side of the road, pulled over to help, and then he got rear-ended. Now he's in the hospital. My first thought was honeypot setup. Was that yours? Did that occur to any of you when you first heard this story about Mayor Giuliani? You know, I've been disgusted by the mistreatment and disrespect that Mayor Giuliani has been given the last 5 or 6 years by the Never-Trumpers, by the Democrats, by the media. He is America's mayor because he is an incredible hero. You know, on 9/11, what Mayor Giuliani did was amazing. He's the Sergeant York type, an Audie Murphy type. He is an American hero for his outstanding service and leadership when America was under attack. You got to understand something. On 9/11, when 9/11 happened, Mayor Giuliani was the only member of the government, the only elected official who was on the scene taking charge on the front lines. George W. Bush was flying around the country on Air Force One, and Air Force One's communication system was not working. It was the first time Air Force One had been used in a war situation, a real war situation on 9/11. And I've heard President Bush talk about this. He couldn't communicate with the generals or the different people from government agencies. It didn't work. It just didn't work. In fact, when things calmed down, they gutted Air Force One and redid the entire communication system in it because of that. So you had President Bush flying around, unable to talk to anyone, really. You had the Vice President, Dick Cheney, in the basement bunker of the White House. The entire Congress, both houses, had evacuated Washington, as did the cabinet and other government officials, and were hiding out on military bases. That includes Biden and Hillary and all the rest. But Mayor Giuliani was right there on the front lines at ground zero when the whole thing was happening, taking charge. And that's something I'll never forget. And he is a living American hero because of that day. And in the days and weeks after. That's why he got that label, America's Mayor. Plus, he did a lot of great things too, other than that, right? Ridding New York City of crime and such. But when he uncovered the hard drive, Hunter Biden's laptop, that was it. The media went after him, the Never Trumpers went after him, the Democrats went after him, and the way they've treated him these last few years is a disgrace. And you got to understand that that laptop was the Trump campaign's October surprise in that election. The Democrats always have October surprises. This was the first October surprise Republicans had ever had, was the laptop. And the deep state people that feel under siege right now, unfairly, of course, because they think they are the heroes of this country, not Mayor Giuliani, not the great President Trump and others. They think they are the heroes. And there's a lot of anger. They blame him for a lot of their troubles because of the laptop. Remember, a lot of these people, they signed off that it was Russian disinformation, which it wasn't, but they signed off on it. So, no, when I first heard this story with Mayor Giuliani in this accident, my immediate thought was a honeypot, a setup. Am I alone in that? Did any of you think the same thing? Give me a call. Let me know. That if you're watching live on YouTube, the number is pinned in the live stream, 1-888-465-2631, 1-888-465-2631. Now, here's the latest from the Associated Press. Now, this is like 6-7 hours ago. We haven't had an update since then, but I will be following this story. Here's the headline, Associated Press, Rudy Giuliani injured in New Hampshire car crash, his spokesperson says. Now, there's a photograph circulating that says it's the accident as of this moment. Now, there may be a real photograph later, but the one we've seen so far is not. You see a mountain in the background. It looks like California to me, not New Hampshire. So we haven't seen much as of this moment. Okay, Associated Press reporting this. The reporter is Jack Brook. Rudy Giuliani is recovering from a fractured vertebra. Oh my goodness, it's early, man, it's early. And other injuries following a car crash in New Hampshire in which he was a passenger, a spokesperson for the former New York mayor said on Sunday. Giuliani was being driven in a rented Ford Bronco by a spokesperson when their vehicle was struck from behind by a Honda HR-V driven by a 19-year-old woman late Saturday evening, New Hampshire State Police said in a statement. Troopers witnessed the crash, and by the way, I do not trust New Hampshire, and I'll tell you why I don't trust New Hampshire. Because that New Hampshire primary is so important, the top leaders of the political establishment, and that would also include deep state and media figures, have relationships in New Hampshire. You understand? I learned about this about 25 years ago. I was watching Chris Matthews on his MSNBC show. It's like 25 years ago. Hardball. Remember Hardball with Chris Matthews? And he was interviewing a regular voter from New Hampshire. And she had said that she had spoken with, that she had gotten calls and had spoken with 2 or 3 of the presidential candidates. And she said this a couple times. And Chris Matthews, after a while, he says, you don't mean you actually spoke to them. And she says, no. She says, they've called me. She said, in New Hampshire, presidential candidates will call you on your home, at your home. And even Chris Matthews was surprised at that, because that New Hampshire primary, winning there and moving on and everything, is so important. So I don't trust anything that comes out of public officials in New Hampshire. They're so in bed with the party establishment, the media, the deep state, because of the importance of the New Hampshire primaries. I need independent sourcing. Giuliani was being driven in a rented Ford Bronco by a spokesperson when their vehicle was struck from behind by a Honda HR-V driven by a 19-year-old woman late Saturday evening, New Hampshire State Police said in a statement. Now, the original story was that there was a girl that was in distress and Mayor Giuliani pulled over to help her. And there was some type of domestic incident, some domestic disturbance incident, and he had gotten rear-ended while helping the girl. Now it was the girl that hit him. You know, first off, how many of you have driven down the road and seen some young hottie that needs help on the side of the road? When I first heard that, I was like, come on, honeypot. Troopers witnessed the crash, which caused both vehicles to hit the highway median and left them heavily damaged, state police said. Mayor Giuliani's assistant and the 19-year-old suffered non-threatening injuries and were taken to the hospital for treatment. State police said they're investigating the crash. No charges have been filed. Mayor Giuliani, age 83, was taken to a nearby trauma center and was being treated for a fractured thoracic vertebra, multiple lacerations and contusions, as well as injuries to his left arm and lower leg, according to a statement posted on X by the head of Giuliani's security. Giuliani sustained injuries but is in good spirits and recovering tremendously, his security says. This was not a targeted attack. Now, that's an interesting thing. Why did they drop that in so quick? This was not a targeted attack. That also sets off sirens to me. You know, I was never into this conspiracy stuff with the deep state and everything. I really wasn't until I saw what they've done to Trump over these last 10 years. And living through everything they've done to Trump since he came down the escalator, when these kind of things happen, I get very suspicious. Don't you? So they go out of their way to say this was not a targeted attack. Why did they say that? Doesn't that seem out of that, just to volunteer that when they're going through this? I don't trust any of this. Prior to the accident, Mayor Giuliani had been, oh, here we go. All right, now here goes some from the original story. Prior to the accident, Mayor Giuliani had been, this is the Associated Press I'm reading from. Prior to the accident, Giuliani had been flagged down by a woman who was the victim of a domestic violence incident. See, this is honeypot stuff. How many of you guys have been flagged down by a hottie in distress on the street? Please help me. And then, first of all, when does that ever happen? That's like a young man's fantasy, something like that happening. And then you get rear-ended and almost killed when you're this guy that got the Hunter Biden laptop? Oh, my goodness. Prior to the incident, again, this is the Associated Press, so this is the official version of events as they stand now. Yeah, somebody in the chat, I was going to get to that, but I'll mention it now. In that Borat movie a couple years ago, they used a honeypot against him to get him on camera. Remember, in the hotel room, and then they were monkeying around with the mic and his shirt and pants and stuff like this. So the powers that be know that a honeypot worked for Borat. Prior to the accident, Giuliani had been flagged down by a woman who was the victim of a domestic violence incident, a damsel in distress, and contacted police assistance on her behalf. That's why there were police witnesses, which seems kind of weird. Did they want witnesses? Now, guys, I want to hear your opinions on this. I know some of you have called. If you'd like to call in, please do. The lines are open if you're watching live on YouTube. Am I paranoid? Am I crazy? Or does this stink? Okay, let me start this paragraph over for the last time, then I'll read through it. Prior to the accident, Giuliani had been flagged down by a woman who was the victim of a domestic violence incident and contacted police assistance on her behalf. After police arrived, Giuliani continued on his way and his vehicle was hit shortly after pulling onto the highway in a crash that was entirely unrelated to the domestic violence incident. Come on. Come on. I mean, this is getting like, come on. More far-fetched. This official story is more far-fetched than what's going on in my mind here with this. Let's see here. Thank you to all the people, back to the AP. Thank you to all the people who have reached out since learning the news about my father, said Andrew Giuliani on X. The crash follows some rocky years for the one-time Republican presidential candidate who was dubbed America's mayor in light of his leadership in New York after the September 11th attacks. Giuliani later became President Donald Trump's personal attorney, and this is when they started going after him. And if you look at what they've done, they have bankrupted Mayor Giuliani, right? They've gone after Mayor Giuliani and bankrupted him. He's like broke at his age. They were even trying to take his car or something. Remember that here in Palm Beach? So you guys have seen everything that they've put him through. And this story just seems a little too convenient to me. Now, I've got a lot to cover here. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'm going to get into the Christy Noem story, and there's a whole bunch more I'm going to cover as well. So I got a lot to cover. I will be following this story as it breaks, but it would take a lot to convince me that something's not fishy here, right? And I am not one of these people that sees a conspiracy in everything. But you look at the honeypot incident with Mayor Giuliani and Borat. He's the discoverer of the laptop of Hunter Biden's that's led to a lot of problems for these evildoers against President Trump. You look at this situation, a damsel in distress, in a domestic dispute, he pulls over, helps her, calls the police. They arrive just in time to witness another girl, a young girl, 19-year-old, crash into him and he's hospitalized. Give me a freaking break. You know, when you're in a car on the side of the road, if you're in or out of it, that's like a very dangerous place to be. And calling the state police so that they're there to witness everything, and you got police. This to me just stinks. Oh boy, I tell you, why can't they just leave them alone? If you're on hold, hang in there. If you're watching live on YouTube, you're welcome to call in. The number is in the live chat, toll free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. The Brian Craig Show podcast is available on all podcast platforms. Just search for The Brian Craig Show. We'll take a quick break, come back with more after this. All right, we're back. I'm Brian Craig. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And if you're on hold, hang in there. I'll get to the phones in just a bit. There's just so much to cover. I do want to hear your thoughts on the Giuliani thing. I mean, am I just paranoid? I mean, look at everything they've done to President Trump and those around him, right? And they're plenty ticked at him. Okay, so let's get into this Christy Noem thing. You know, this Maryland man business that they're trying to create is insane. This fake Maryland man is not a Maryland man, and on top of that, he's one of the biggest lowlives you could possibly be. One, he's a wife beater. That's not me saying that. That's not Christy Noem saying that. His own wife went to court and said that he beats her up. It's pretty bad, isn't it? Absolutely. And then, of course, he's a human trafficker. So human trafficking is an updated 21st century term, but a human trafficker is a slave trafficker. You know, all those terrible people that were in the slave ships from Africa to the New World? That's what this fake Maryland man is. He transports slaves. They call it human trafficking, but he transports slaves from one destination to another. That's what he did for a living. His profession is that of a slave trafficker. And the Democrats and the media and the Never-Trumpers, they're trying to create some civil rights icon out of this guy. And he's such a low-life criminal who does not speak English, even though he's a Maryland man. He hates this country, and he put on a little display the other day that showed that. So Christy Noem is being interviewed on Face the Nation, and they edited what she said. In fact, what they did was so bad that Christy Noem has released a statement about this, which I'll get to in a minute. But here is the clip. The first is the uncut response, and then you'll hear the edited version that they put on television. And they cut out something because they didn't want their viewers to know something about the fake Maryland man.
And the one thing that we will continue to do is to make sure that he doesn't walk free in the United States of America. This individual.
Okay, so that, now listen.
Was a known human smuggler, MS-13 gang member, an individual who was a wife beater, and someone who was
That's right.
perverted that he solicited nude photos from minors.
Wow.
His fellow human traffickers to knock it off. He was so sick in what he was doing and how he was treating small children. So he needs to never be in the United States of America, and our administration is making sure we're doing all that we can to bring him.
Okay, so all of those terrible things there, those truths about him, the last one, I didn't know that one, were edited out. Here's another version of it, but this is the uncut versus the edited version that aired on television.
And the one thing that we will continue to do is to make sure that he doesn't walk free in the United States of America. This individual was a known human smuggler.
This is what they cut out.
Gang member, an individual who was a wife beater, and someone who was so perverted that he solicited nude photos from minors, and even his fellow.
Unbelievable.
To knock it off. He was so sick in what he was doing and how he was treating small children. So he needs to never be in the United States of America, and our administration is making sure we're doing all that we can to bring him to justice.
Okay, now if you're on hold, hang in there. Let me finish up with a couple thoughts here, then I'll take some calls, and then I'll get to Christy Noem's amazing response to this editing. This guy is such a scumbag, even the other slave traffickers and his human trafficking MS-13 ring said, hey, you got to cool it off. You're too bad even for us. This guy's the worst of the worst. And they cut all that out. And you know what I wonder, because I know a lot of people have this response, which is really juvenile. Are you surprised? Nothing surprises me with these people, okay? Nothing. But what I wonder is, how long has this kind of crap been going on? How many narratives have we been sold in our lifetimes, and even before we were alive, that were completely false narratives, like they edited this to get a fake line of BS going? Probably more than we want to know. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Joe Putton.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah.
Investigate 311.
Okay, whatever. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Shawna, and I'm calling from Connecticut.
Okay. What's on your mind?
What's that?
What is on your mind?
Oh, thank you. Well, I just want to ask, what do you mean by the deep state when you say, like, they did this?
Deep state. CIA, NSA types, John Bolton types, Jim Comey types, people like that. Clapper types, Bolton types,
Like,
Bush types.
okay.
People that work for the deep
Okay.
state, the intelligence
Pe-
arm of the government.
People work for the deep state. So
Well,
the
lead it. They don't just lead it. They've worked it.
Who is the deep state?
I just told you.
Who would you say
I
is
just
the
told
deep
you.
state now?
Who's the deep state now? The deep state now. The deep state now we're talking about would be
Right.
Bolton, Clapper. People like this. People know who they are. I mean, this program is not for children that don't know what's going on. Do you have an opinion, or you just want to ask the same question over and over again?
I'm just asking.
I just told you.
Because no. I want to ask another question. So, I find that you guys often use the deep state as a little bit of a scapegoat. Like, I'm not saying that, like,
When you say a scapegoat,
I'm saying that
what do you mean?
You're always like, they stole the election.
No.
When you lose the election,
No.
they shot Trump,
Yes, of course they shot Trump. Yeah, sure they shot Trump. Yeah, they shot Kennedy too,
Where's
right?
the scar?
In his ear. They grazed his ear. All right, listen, I'm done with your questions. You've got nothing to say. You've just got a bunch of, but I appreciate the call. My goodness. By the way, clear out your mouth next time you call. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Once, twice.
Hello?
Oh, you just missed it. Oh, well. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm calling from Rochester.
Okay, hold on. Let me answer all these lines of people that are calling in. All right, Rochester. What's on your mind, Rochester?
Am I still on hold?
No, you're on the air. What's on your mind? You called me.
Yeah, I was wondering why the hell you look like Herbert the pervert,
I don't know who that is.
a child molester from Family Guy.
Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah, all right, appreciate the call. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy, great calls so far today. The rest of you on hold, stand by. I'll get back to the calls in a minute. So when you look at what they did with Christy Noem, she released a statement, and it's a very detailed statement. CBS, this is an official statement from the Department of Homeland Security. CBS deceptively edits Secretary Noem's answers, cutting more than 23% of the footage from Face the Nation interview. Now, I'm not going to read through all this. Of course, the highlight is what I've been sharing, and you guys can. I did tweet this. It's on my X, a Brian Craig Show. You can go there and read the whole thing. But here's the story, okay? Here's the story. They've got a big problem on the left. The Never Trumpers, the party establishment of both parties. And they've got several operations going on trying to undermine the president. One of the ones they have, this is part of it. For some reason, they thought that this fake Maryland man was going to be the next Trayvon Martin or George Floyd, that they'd be able to launch a movement with it. And you would think at this point they would move on to just forget about him, because his background, when they first jumped on board, they didn't know what his background was. They didn't know he was a slave trafficker, right? They didn't know that he beat his wife. They didn't know all that stuff. But they know about it now. And you would think that now that they know about it, they would move on. But what they've done is they've circled the wagons, and they're still trying to promote this guy up. And they think he will be the beginning of a movement that will turn the American people against Trump. Because if you notice, everything they've done with Trump, every single thing, except when they shot him, of course, in Butler, and then try to do it again at the golf course. What they've always tried to do is get people to turn against Trump and get a movement against Trump. And they've had nothing but failure after failure. One of the things, like that idiot caller, the deep state, who's the deep state? The deep state, the intelligence community, they're not that intelligent because they keep using the failed tactic that hasn't worked yet again and again and again. Like one of the other things they're trying to do is they're trying to get another narrative going. One, that he's got a bunch of health problems, right? He's got some minor things that anybody has, but they're trying to get this false narrative going that he's got some health problems. So what do? Right? He doesn't have a press conference for 2 days over a holiday weekend, and then they start all these things like, well, where is he? Is he still around? Is he in the hospital? Is he, you know what I'm talking about. And then he's out there playing golf with Kai Trump and others, and And then the other thing they're trying to do right now is trying to craft another false narrative, a false narrative that he is a lame duck, right? They want to give you this impression that his health is bad, which is absurd. And they're trying to get this thing going that he's a lame duck. He's the opposite of a lame duck, I'm here to tell you. And that's why when JD did that interview the other day, they said, "Are you ready to take over?" He says, "Yeah, I'm ready, take over." They're trying to craft a thing that JD is already got the nomination and he's in charge and he's the future and Trump's the lame duck. Everything they do is a scheme and a scam. And this thing with Giuliani that I opened with today, I was thinking about Hillary Clinton. And she's a terrible thing. There was a story, I did a podcast on this over the weekend. You guys should check it out because I dropped a lot of big stories there on my podcast on Saturday. The Clintons, they got off a private plane and Bill Clinton had a defibrillator, right? And I was talking about how the Clintons are going to try to use the health scare that Bill and Hillary can't show up for depositions because they're freaked out that they're going to be called in front of Congress or maybe a grand jury and testify. So Bill Clinton's walking around with a defibrillator so he can say his heart is so bad he can't even be questioned. And the Clintons, Hillary in particular, these are bad people. Hillary Clinton is the creator of this whole Russia hoax, right? And look at everything that has caused over these years. Everything about the Russia hoax is Hillary Rodham Clinton. Everything. But that wasn't the only time she did something like this. She's done a lot of things. But remember the birth certificate with Obama? That was also created by Hillary Clinton. So the two guys she ran up against and lost to, in both of those instances, she crafted these false backgrounds and stories questioning their loyalty to the United States. The Russia hoax with Trump and questioning whether or not Barack Obama was even a U.S. citizen. And the Clintons, think about the things that they've done that we don't even know about. Think about that. The things that they've done that we don't even know about. And that's why they're scared to testify, and that's why they're going around with the defibrillator. So when you look at how evil these people are, and you see everything that they've done, how could you not be looking at this and saying, hey, something's off here with this Mayor Giuliani crash? Now, there's one opening on the board. The number is 888-465-2631. Those of you that watch on YouTube, it's Labor Day. I'm not live on the radio today. We're running a best of show on the radio, but I'm live streaming on YouTube. So if you're watching me now live, this is a podcast episode just streaming on YouTube right now, and I will upload this show to all the podcast platforms today. But on the radio is a best of show. All right. Our number is toll-free, 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll take a quick break and be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Thanks for tuning in on our special Labor Day broadcast. So if you're just tuning in, I am live on YouTube right now, and I will upload this program today to all the podcast platforms. But on the radio, because it's Labor Day, we're running a best of show on the radio today. Welcome. If you're on hold, hang in there. This story and this number may have gone up by the time this story was posted. This is ABC News as of yesterday afternoon at 4:44 p.m. 35 shot, 5 dead in Chicago. That was yesterday by 4:44 p.m. Eastern Time. So here we are the next morning. It's Labor Day morning. Who knows where those numbers are right now, and what the final numbers will be over the weekend. And it's really a sad thing. You've got this Tubbo governor and a mayor, and the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago, who aren't concerned about the 35 shot, the 5 dead, or even the shooters. They're not out to stop that. What are they out to do? Stop Trump from coming in here and stopping the murders. President Trump said that, D.C. is a crime-free zone now. Well, there'll be some crime here and there, and then they'll say, look, he was wrong. While the goal is always zero crime, that's an almost impossible thing to do. But this country is under attack by the domestic terrorists known as criminals. And I want to ask you this question. What is the number one cause of crime in America today? The answer to this is very simple. I did a poll on this on YouTube over the weekend. What is the number one cause of crime in America today? Just think about that for a second. I'm not going to troll for your calls on it. I just want you to think. What is the number one cause of crime in America today? It's pretty simple. You know what it is? Democrats. Democrats are setting up a thing where basically you have enforcement-free zones. Chicago, D.C. was, and other blue cities. Wherever Democrats rule, there is crime. Even here in Florida, we're a very red state, but we have some blue cities. You go to the blue cities, there's crime. And I was, over the weekend, a lot of times those of you that follow me on YouTube over the weekends, I'll do live streams on Saturday and Sunday mornings out and about, out having coffee, out on the streets. And I'll be out in front of a coffee shop at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm the only person there, out there, live streaming with my MAGA hat on, with all of my fancy equipment and everything to live stream with, and I have no worries in the world. Well, that's how it should be for every American in every city. No one should have to live in a community where they're afraid that they or their families are going to be the victims of violent crime or any other kind of crime. Things are so bad in some of these areas, and the Democrats, they enable the criminals, right? Defund the police. Is there anything dumber than the idea of defunding the police? I'm not saying the police are not perfect, are perfect. I've had problems and run-ins with the police. By run-ins, I mean, a cop in a speed trap or something, or dealt with a jerk. But it's not about that. What kind of stupid logic, what kind of stupid position is it to defund the police? Or this no cash bail? What's that all about? And a lot of people say, well, the number one cause of crime is poverty. It's this. No. Democrats. And poverty is not even number two. The second biggest cause of this violent crime is that you've got, these criminals, it's an easy way for them to make money with limited skills, and a lot of them are born into it. And you see how the Democrats have been reacting both in Illinois and in D.C., to these things. And that is, it's almost as if these criminals have some type of constitutional right to go out and do crime, and it's President Trump is the one who's violent. When you're out there robbing people, killing people, pistol whipping people, assaulting people, right? You're the problem, not President Trump. And for the life of me, I cannot understand what goes through the minds of these liberals that are elected officials that are out there saying, hey, criminals have rights. I mean, this is nuts. This is nuts that's going on. And, I knew, like you guys knew, that when, sadly, when the Labor Day weekend came, anytime there's a 3-day holiday weekend in Chicago, it's always like this, always a bloodbath. And, a lot of the crime is, criminal on criminal. These 35 shot, 5 dead. Some of them are criminals that were shot by other criminals, and a lot of it's, gang activity and stuff like that. These are not all choir boys that are shot, but a lot of times innocent people are shot. Sometimes it's a child. I remember, I think it was a girl from Obama's second inauguration. Pretty sure it was the second inauguration. Could have been the first, but I think it was the second. But there was a girl from Chicago. She was in the inauguration parade of Obama. I can't remember if it was his first or second one now. She was a high school girl, and her band was in the parade. She went back home to Chicago, not a criminal, not in a gang, and she was killed by a stray bullet. It was a sad story, wasn't it? You guys remember that? It's terrible. There's too much of that. So, I got when I talked about this over the weekend about how where I live, I can walk the streets day or night. I'm out. It's 5 a.m. I'm doing this. I got no fear. And I got feedback from people. They said, well, you can't compare your town to these towns. Why not? Why not? See, the reason that we don't have crime where I live, there's little tiny little things, but the reason we don't have violent crime in my town and they have it elsewhere is it's a pretty simple reason. Think about it. Why do I live in a pretty much crime-free area where I can walk the streets any time of the day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, doesn't matter. But if you go to these blue cities, it's dangerous. It's because, 1, we got Republican leadership where I live. That's 1. 2, that if something like that happened, people in my town wouldn't put up with it. A couple weeks ago, I was talking, my daughter flew to California for a week, went to do some visiting and get the rest of her stuff out there to move back to Florida. And she got the first flight out in the morning out of Fort Lauderdale to L.A. And I thought, because it was on a weekend, it was a Saturday, and you guys know on Saturday and Sundays I live stream, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go live stream from Fort Lauderdale Beach. It's right down the street from the airport. And I'll live stream the beautiful sunrise over Fort Lauderdale Beach. So I get there, and it's like 5 a.m. or so. I parked my car. I got out. I grabbed my iPhone and started walking to where I was going to go set up and watch the sunrise with all of you live streaming. I didn't get very far, and I turned around and went back to my car because it was not safe for me to be out there. It wasn't safe. And the reason it wasn't safe is there were a lot of homeless people walking around. It was like Night of the Living Dead. And I thought, this is stupid. I got to go back to my car. And the city of Fort Lauderdale is a city that's run by Democrats and a county that's run by Democrats. And even though it's in the great state of Florida that's strong red, that's strong MAGA, we have some pockets run by Democrats. And anywhere you go that's run by Democrats, it's dangerous. I don't know why Democrats have this fetish for criminals, but they do have a fetish for criminals, right? Now, I went to the beach yesterday with my daughter during the day. It was like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was fine. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, a couple Saturdays before, you're taking your life in your hands. Even when I was there during the day, there were homeless people sleeping all over the place. Very dangerous. And Democrats embrace crime. They used to advocate for felons to get the vote. Remember this? And they've had some victories on that, sadly. But they took it a step further. You know, Democrats not only were advocating for felons to get the vote, they went a step further and wanted people incarcerated in prisons to be able to vote. Remember that? Sheila Jackson Lee, who's passed away, she was a big advocate for that. Democrats are mentally ill, is what it is. And, you know, most of every problem we have in this country is a direct result of their philosophy, their ideas, and their policies. Now, you're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. This is a special Labor Day edition. We're running a best of on the radio today, but there's so much going on in the news. I thought, well, hey, listen, I'm gonna do a podcast early this morning. I was going to podcast this afternoon. I said, no, it's too much breaking news. I've only just scratched the surface. I got a lot to cover that I have not gotten to yet, but I am going to. So don't go anywhere. If you're on hold, stand by. If you'd like to call in, I know a lot of you are listening on different podcast platforms. If you want to call in and participate in the live show, you know, the Brian Craig Show podcast is available on all podcast platforms. Okay, just search for the Brian Craig Show and it will come up on all podcast platforms. But if you follow me on YouTube, Brian Craig Show on YouTube, you can catch the show live, and that's where I take live calls. All right? My name's Brian Craig. We'll take a quick break and be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. My name's Brian. Let's take some of these calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jeff from Maine.
Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hey, the only people Democrats can get to vote for them is criminals and illegals, don't you know? They're
Yep.
losing so much every time they open their mouth. Everything they do is anti-American. And I believe the American people are sick of that. And the mainstream news media at the same time, they're not covering the stories they should be, and they're being affected. And everything is turning around because President Trump was elected, and he's doing exactly what he said he'd do. And we're not going to stop. This is going to continue with J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. There's so many people lined up in the Republican Party, and they have no one, Brian.
Yeah.
They have nobody lined up for president or anything else. They have Trump has done exactly what he said he was going to do, expose them for what they are.
Yeah, and if you notice, there's a big national reset going on. I saw the other day, over the weekend, that Kohl's is making some changes and actually apologizing to consumers for some of their woke crap. I saw Hooters is making some changes to come back. There's a whole big move towards getting back on track from all this wackadoodle stuff that had been going around.
Look what happened with Cracker Barrel.
That's right.
I mean, everything is revolving around what Trump's doing and saying. Everything that's happening in America, and it's for the good. And can I just say one thing about the D.C.?
Of course. Of course.
With Chicago and all them, he's taking over our streets, and he's going to put law enforcement back, and he's going to back them, and we're going to clean up America. It's going to be what it used to be.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, listen, a lot of what's going on, whether it's Cracker Barrel or Kohl's and these other things, okay? Yeah. They thought that woke was the way it was because it had been pushed that way by the Democrats and the media. And then Trump's overwhelming victory in the last election, they realized this woke stuff's not really that popular. Just a handful of a few people support it.
Well, and with the midterms, I believe that is the marker of how much Trump's affected the nation. Do you think that's the next big key?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I like this thing. I like this thing that President Trump's working on the midterms already. Ridding crime from these blue cities is going to help in the midterms. He's got all these Democrats all over the country arguing, becoming advocates for criminals, open advocates for violent criminals, right? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Do you think these Democratic mayors and governors are in big trouble for what they're doing, trying to stop Trump from making the streets safe?
Exactly. Exactly.
How can they defend that?
They can't.
They can't. And I don't believe that the Democrats are, across the board, it's not going to be the huge majority, I'm sorry, but
no, you're right.
I'm saying a third of Democrats are going to turn on them, at least.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it doesn't mean we're going to turn Chicago blue, but we'll peel away enough votes to help. Hey, appreciate the call, Jeff. Jeff from Maine, always on point. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Edward. I'm calling from Portugal.
All right, Portugal. What's on your mind?
I don't know.
You called me. Don't you have a brain? Really, are you in Portugal? Give me a break. All right, exactly. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Brian. This is Richie.
Oh, hey, Richie. How you doing?
I'm doing great. The first couple of callers called you sounded like they were the Walking Dead, the zombies,
It's Labor Day.
Those are the Democratic voters. I mean,
Yes.
This is how they go through
That's
their whole
right.
life. And you mentioned this Maryland man, so I want to throw something at you really quick.
Yeah.
You said they do this, they've done it in the past. Well, here's the examples I'm going to give you. We talk about ambulance chases. Well, Benjamin Crump, the lawyer, the black attorney, waits for anything that he could exploit for money, and then the media jump right in on it. The
Yep.
George Floyd garbage. And George Floyd was one of those guys. They made a hero out of him. They even painted a mural in front of the White House. Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
I mean, the whole thing. These people are like you said, they are so sick.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And then they got a guy that's basically been a white-hating thug his whole life, but because he puts the name Reverend in front of his name, they give him a show, NBC. They give him a show on MSNBC, Al Sharpton. Reverend? What church?
Yeah. Well, let's
Just
see.
a
Let's see what happens with the changeover that's coming over there. Remember, they're no longer going to be in NBC. Let's see how Reverend Al does with the switchover.
He's made his money. He's exploited. He's exploited.
I don't know. You say he's made his money. You say he's made his money. I think it's probably more accurate to say he spent his money.
Yeah,
you think that guy is a saver who's invested or anything else with all this money? Yeah, exactly. He's a thug, Al Sharpton. You know, you and I remember Al Sharpton when he was fat, and he dressed like a pimp.
Yeah.
Right.
And causing great trouble in New York City.
He was like a fat Huggy Bear. He dressed like Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch, just really fat.
Yeah, unbelievable. And then the media is all in on this whole Democratic crap.
Oh yeah.
They talk about Josh Shapiro being a potential candidate. Folks, everyone out there, after Brian's show, go on YouTube and go into Kensington, Philadelphia. It's a street. Why hasn't this great governor, and probably the mayor's probably another Democrat, cleaned up this total disaster for our country?
Exactly.
They're walking around with openly needles, walking in the street with the total zombies. This is
well, I saw Sharpton the other day. He had a parade the other day in D.C. He had Martin Luther King Jr. and Mom Donnie. Right? It was so ridiculous.
Yeah, the whole they don't care about the United States. They don't care about the people. They say President Trump is a threat to democracy.
Yeah.
Look how they run their cities. That's a threat to democracy. Finally, a lot of African Americans are actually waking up to the fact that they've been used and exploited for all these years.
That's right.
And they're finally waking up. President Trump is, to me, what he's done for these people. Brian, it's a miracle what he's done for the United States.
Oh yeah.
They won't let him do his job.
No.
They won't let him do his job.
No, they won't. They never will. They never will leave him alone.
I got a call yesterday. From a friend of mine who's Republican, but he's not really into it. Somebody called him up and said that but the Trump incident over the weekend, and then sent me a video. These Democrats are hoping President Trump is sick. I mean, they're so
that nonsense that they were trying to get going on Friday and Saturday was crazy. Hey, Richie, I appreciate the call. Take care. Yeah, Richie's on point too with everything he's saying. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, good morning. This is Joan in Tampa Bay.
Hey, Joan.
Mayor Mohawk up in Chicago.
Yes.
He thinks he's a big shot. He signs an executive order so the police won't assist federal agents. But he wants federal money, like for $860 million, and then he's raising the property taxes on the people in the city.
Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that, right?
Yeah, he don't care about nobody. He doesn't care about the people.
No, he cares about criminals being able to do crime, apparently, right? I mean that's what he's that's what he's doing. I mean, yeah. Go ahead. Oh, did I lose you?
They don't care about
no.
good law.
Well, what do you think it is? Trump derangement syndrome is too easy. Why do you think you got the governor of Illinois, the mayor of Chicago, and Democrats around the country advocating for the rights of criminals to do crime? What do they think in their mind when they go out and do that, do you think? It's crazy.
Because they're in lockstep with that Democrat hive mind.
Yeah.
Yep. They're all a little off, and they won't detour or think for themselves.
Yeah.
And they're just going through the Democrat agenda. That's all they see. That's all they know.
Yeah, it would seem that way. Yeah, yeah. All right, Joan, I appreciate the call. Take care. All right, let's take another call or two. I got a lot to cover. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Conservative Doug.
Oh, hey, Doug. What's up?
I was thinking what you were saying earlier. The Rudy story sounds.
Well, hold on, Doug. Let me answer all these phone calls. My phone's ringing up. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, the Giuliani story sounds odd to you too.
It sounds odd, and the whole story. If he was pulled over and trying to help the girl and then got hit over there, that make a little more sense.
Listen, guys. Listen. This thing about Giuliani. A big fantasy for a lot of guys is seeing some hot girl on the side of the road broken down that needs their help. So that's what happened to Giuliani, and then he gets hit by another young girl in the back. They were. To me, it sounds like they were running a honeypot operation on him.
Yeah, something's rotten there. I don't know if we heard the.
Well, look at what he's done all his life. First off, he took down the mob. He took down the mob, and believe me, there's people that are still pissed about that. Okay, he is the one who broke the laptop story of Hunter's, right? Because the computer guy gave it to him. He's got some very serious, crazy enemies, and to me, it looked like a hit attempt. That's what it looked like to me.
I would say you're probably right. I would think that they probably follow him around all over the place to see what he's doing to try to find something on him. And maybe they just decided to...
Well, remember Borat used a young girl honeypot to get him in a hotel room for his movie. Remember that a couple years back? And it worked.
Yeah.
So, he's not a perfect man, no doubt about it. And honeypots work on him. We saw it work with Borat.
Yeah, but for somebody to hit a car, a woman hit a car with her car...
I mean, Doug,
how
many guys have seen some hot woman in distress on the side of the road that's flagging you down it's like out of a movie. Then you get hit by another a 19-year-old hottie behind him and almost killed. Come on. And then when the statement comes out before we know anything, immediately someone from that team says, "Oh no, there was no foul play here. This was not a hit job." Oh, how did they determine that? There's been no investigation. How can they determine this was not a hit attempt? Come on.
Exactly.
Come on.
That's what made me say.
He's still in the ER. He's still in the ER. Oh no foul play, no hit attempt. Really? Oh wow. Interesting.
Yeah, man, we got to find out who this girl is that hit him and find out what her story is.
Indeed.
She's a hate. Yeah, man. Hopefully we'll figure it out, but they'll probably try not to do anything.
Mm-hmm. All right, Doug. Good to hear from you on Labor Day. All right, you take care. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Renee from Harlem.
Hey, Renee, what's up?
Yeah, I've been listening to you spew your racist rhetoric for the last few minutes, and I just had to call in because you're so typical. I call you Lion Brian, the bigot midget, and that fits perfectly.
Mm-hmm. What did I say that was racist? What did I say that was racist today? I missed that. What did I say?
Well, you're calling immigrants slave holders or
no, I'm talking about the fake Maryland man is a human trafficker. Human trafficking is slave trafficking.
Yeah. And it's funny that you happen to exclude your own family from that.
My family never owned or trafficked in slaves, Renee. Sorry.
Totally did. You had everything.
Nope. My family is from Ohio, and we're in the Union Army fighting against the Democrat Confederacy. Yes.
And it's funny you ran from Florida the other day because you don't want to have anything to do with it. But when you talk about Gator Bait, you're so proud of that alligator Alcatraz. You think that's a great thing.
Everyone does that's got sense.
It's your people. You know that.
All right, Renee. Welcome to the program. Oh, my goodness. Okay, now I wanted to share this with you. This is, if you're on hold, hang in there. Let me pull this story up, guys. This is so bizarre. My wife got me back into football. I haven't watched football in years, and they had the first Florida State game on Saturday, and I watched it with my wife. It was a great game. Florida State won. I'm going to be following football this season. I haven't watched football in years, and I'm back into it now, especially with Florida State doing so well in their first game. And I saw a story today because I couldn't believe what I saw. I saw this on X. And I'm like, this can't be real. This has got to be some fake thing. And I went and found a story right out of Michigan. The Detroit News, Western Michigan football player displays his name on his jersey in Arabic. Have you seen this? His name is written on the back of his jersey over his number, which I think is 0, and it's written in the Arabic alphabet, whatever that is. It's not even like English letters rearranged. Very strange. A Western Michigan football player opened the 2020, this is in the Detroit News I'm reading from. A Western Michigan football player opened the 2025 season Friday night with a new name on the front of his jersey and a new display of his own name on the back. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I'll mispronounce it, but it's a Muslim name. A redshirt senior defensive tackle was set to become possibly the first NCAA student athlete to display his surname in Arabic. You know, who wrote this story? In America, we don't use the word surname, we say last name. And people in other countries that use English or learn English in other countries, they say surname instead of last name. I know what a surname is, but in America, we say last name, not surname. So this article in the Detroit News, this could not have been written by an American. I just don't think an American writer would write surname, do you? Anyway, he was set to become the first NCAA student athlete to display his surname in Arabic when Western Michigan opened the season with a 23-6 loss against Michigan State. I never thought I'd be rooting for Michigan State, but good for Michigan State defeating this nonsense. Ahead of this season, he transferred to Western Michigan from East Tennessee State, with whom he played in 17 games, but never had his surname in Arabic. See, there's surname instead of last name again. Most Americans don't even know what surname is. Earlier this summer, he asked Western Michigan officials if he could do that for his final season. And the head coach and school officials okayed the request. So, what other players have their names in other languages with another alphabet? Like, for example, is there there's got to be, out of the NCAA, there's got to be people descendant of, or even immigrants from other countries that don't have like our own alphabet, right? Like the Russians or the Japanese or the Chinese. Do they use foreign characters for their name on the back of their jerseys? I don't think so. It's like Mamdani. There's a big move by the Islamics to take over our country by using against America one of our greatest strengths, right? Which is our love of immigrants and diversity. Let me go back here. This is in the Detroit News. I did post this to my ex, Brian Craig Show on X. Ahead of this season, he transferred from to Western Michigan from East Tennessee State, with whom he played in 17 games, but never had his surname in Arabic. Earlier this summer, he asked officials and the coach if he could do it. They said okay. The athletic director said before the game, they hired a Kalamazoo seamstress to do the stitching on the jersey in Arabic. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the image of it. I mean, my goodness, that's just stupid. What are the announcers supposed to do? They can't read that. Western Michigan said he is the first student athlete to wear his surname in Arabic on his jersey. Oh, well, give him a medal, right? There's with that surname again. The NCAA could not confirm this fact because it doesn't keep such records. The NCAA said the decision on how to display surnames is left up to individual schools and conferences. I'm here to tell you the name should be in English. If they got some Japanese guy, I don't need to see the Japanese stuff on the back either. He plans to wear his surname in Arabic for the entire season. Let's see here. There have been other two college. See, look at how this is written. They're using surname. Remember, I told you this is not an American who wrote this because of the overusage of surname, which Americans do not use. Most Americans don't know what surname even means. Listen to this next sentence. This is in the Detroit News I'm reading from. There have been other 2 college football players who have had their name in another language on their jersey. There have been 2 other, not other 2. Doesn't even make sense. Who wrote this? Someone from Al Jazeera? Who's the originator of this article? Both in Mandarin Chinese for one game. Notre Dame had this person. Ohio State and Arizona State had someone with it in Chinese. Oh, surprise, surprise. This guy that has his name in Arabic, they say was born in the United States, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. His father is a native of Iraq. He was granted U.S. citizenship after he rebelled against Saddam Hussein. What are your thoughts on that? Is this right? Is it wrong? I don't think it's right. I don't care what it is. I think that the names on the jerseys should be in English, don't you? Let me know what you think. The number 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. We'll be right back with your calls and much more after this. All right, we're back. I'm Brian. It's the Brian Craig Show podcast. Thanks for joining a special Labor Day edition. We're running a best of on the radio, and I'm podcasting here today to you guys. And a lot of you guys, I'm streaming live on YouTube, and this is how I do the podcast. A lot of you may listen to me in the mornings and don't catch my podcast, which I usually stream and record in the afternoons. And this is what I do on the podcast. It's just like the morning show. I take live calls, cover everything. It's the same way. It's just the Brian Craig Show podcast instead of the Steve Kane Radio Show. And what I do it live on YouTube. That's why we get the live calls. And then after that, I upload it to all the podcast platforms. But the podcast is in the afternoons on my YouTube channel live. So those of you that watch me and listen to me in the mornings, make sure you follow me on my YouTube channel, Brian Craig Show, and on all the podcast platforms. Just search for the Brian Craig Show and catch the podcast too, because you're missing out on a lot on the podcast. Okay, so Joy Reid actually dropped something worthy of discussion here, other than her meltdowns and freakouts and Trump derangement syndrome. She had Michael Cohen on, who, of course, was part of the plot against President Trump with the Stormy Daniels stuff. And Michael Cohen is talking about John Bolton. I almost said Michael Bolton. About John Bolton, whose home and office was just raided by Kash Patel and the FBI. Listen to this. Michael Cohen says Bolton's in big trouble. It's about he's Trump. Mm-hmm. This is great. That's right, the MAGA machine. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. I mean, so Michael, it's not looking good for Bolton, and he's the first domino. So don't worry. So Michael Cohen's predicting an arrest of not just Bolton but others. So that is a very good thing. Now, I meant to mention this in the last segment. I was talking about the football player with the Arabic name on his jersey, but you know, Mamdani running for mayor of New York, Zohan. You know, this guy, Zohan, he's a bad guy, right? I mean, I don't have to tell you, he's a bad guy. And his mother is an Oscar-nominated Hollywood director. She's even done directing work for Disney. Look at this. This is in the New York Post over the weekend. Qatar bankrolled over a decade worth of films directed by Zohan Mamdani's mom. So what involvement do they have in his campaign? I mean, you look at you can read the article. I posted this article to my ex, Brian Craig Show on X, so you can read the whole thing. I mean, but the headline tells it all. So we have Qatar funding, you know, his family, they're very wealthy. How much of their wealth is from Qatar? And what is their role in his campaign? These are important questions to be asked. And, you know, this guy becomes mayor of New York City. It's the beginning of a lot of bad things, none of which we want to be dealing with, okay? Now, I did want to share this too. I got so much has happened on just, I'm going through a lot of this because tomorrow, Tuesday, it's kind of like the beginning of the week, and so much has happened over the weekend. A lot of things are going to be forgotten. But this girl, Caitlin, she's a MAGA girl, and she's very famous because she carried a rifle to her college. Remember this years ago? And she does a lot of these man on the street interviews, although in this instance, it's a woman on the street interview. And she goes to a lot of festivals and everything and interviews liberal lunatics about their liberal lunacies and everything. And I've been watching her do this for the last couple of months, and she's gotten really better and better at it as it goes along. And she had a run-in with a MAGA woman. Did any of you guys see this? Listen to this. This is hilarious. Liberals support such stupid things, and when they're all around each other in their circle of liberal groupthink lunacy, it makes perfect sense. But when they're asked just the simplest of questions about this crap that they're spewing all the time by a conservative, even they themselves sometimes wake up and feel stupid. Listen to this exchange. Hear this? See this? How do you know? This was a great response she just had. This great MAGA girl. This liberal woman is telling, how could you support Trump being a woman? And she says, well, how do you know I'm a woman? Right? Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. Listen. Oh, present. Seem to have. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. If I were a liberal, I think I'd have a headache a lot of the time because because when you're involved in a conversation to support your viewpoints, it can get frustrating. You start to go around in circles. Let me rewind and we'll play the rest. How would someone choose these features? Oh my. Exactly. Oh boy. Oh, please. No, he has not. Exactly. She's good. Oh, she just walked off. She can't handle it. Yeah, yeah. See, liberals, talking to a liberal is like talking to a telemarketer. They've got a script, and you get them off the script, they don't know. And their talking points don't hold up to just very basic discussions. What liberals have is a list, and this isn't just now. It's always been this way, right? All they have are vacuous, meaningless talking points that mean nothing. The talking points change from period to period, and I've seen them change. Like they used to say, oh, the Republican Party, the party of David Duke. That was a big one, which was not true. Oh, the party of Trump. They have these things, and they change from time to time. This one here is one of the more recent ones, and in 10 years you'll come back, they'll have a bunch of new ones. And it's so bizarre because the liberals think they're the smart ones. They're the intelligentsia. It's the conservatives that we don't know what's going on. We're the ones that are denying this. We don't know what's going on in the world. We don't know news. We deny science. But when you get down to it, they're the dummies, aren't they? The ones that are uninformed and uneducated. Now, I'll tell you, I was reading this morning that President Trump is moving forward with renaming the Defense Department back to the War Department. And I think that's a pretty good idea. I understand why they changed it to the Defense Department. It was after World War II, and, they wanted to have things, sound a little more peace and all of that, peaceful and positive and all that. But I think Defense Department is kind of too weak. And they're really not, calling them the War Department, that's tough. That's scary, isn't it? Right? The Defense Department, that's too metrosexual. And we've got this great Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. And what's amazing to me is how many major stories drop every day that are some of the biggest scandals you've ever heard of. And Pete Hegseth announced something over the weekend that is an insane scandal inside our entire military that's been going on quite some time that no one has ever heard of before, and he's looking into it. Listen to this. This is nuts. This is Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War.
Last month, the Department of Defense was made aware of an Obama-Biden-era legacy program called Digital Escort. For nearly a decade, Microsoft has used
This is nuts.
coders, remotely supervised by U.S. contractors, to support sensitive DoD cloud systems.
Crazy.
The program was designed to comply with contracting rules, but it exposed the department to unacceptable risk. I mean, if you're thinking America first and common sense, this doesn't pass either of those tests. So I initiated an immediate review of this vulnerability, and I want to report our initial findings. So the use of Chinese nationals to service Department of Defense cloud environments, it's over. We've issued a formal letter of concern to Microsoft documenting this breach of trust, and we're requiring a third-party audit of Microsoft's digital escort program, including the code and the submissions by Chinese nationals. This audit will be free of charge for U.S. taxpayers.
Okay. So, and he goes into a lot of detail. So basically, the Chinese are all into our Pentagon software and everything. And how long this has been going on, I don't know. But it's pretty frightening. This entire country, see, has been sold out by the people that have been running it forever and a day. And I don't know if this started after World War II or if it was always like this. I tend to believe that this kind of thing started after World War II at this level. But this is why they fight so hard against President Trump, and they have for over 10 years now, because he's uncovering what they've been doing. This country has been a corrupt banana republic. It didn't look like that on the outside, but this is probably one of the most corrupt countries in the world. maybe even the most corrupt, before Trump, when you see everything that's being uncovered each and every day. See, this is why a third term of Trump is so important, because they're uncovering so much. He's getting everything back on track, and we're having this great reset. But President Trump really needs that third term to cement everything in place. I want to take our last break. Don't go anywhere. If you're on hold, hang in there. I might get to some more calls before the end or not. But you're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. If you're wondering, I'm not live on the radio today. We're running a best of on the radio, and I'm just streaming here live on YouTube. And this, of course, is a podcast that'll be uploaded on all the podcast platforms. And if you listen to me in the mornings and don't catch my podcast, I live stream the podcast here on YouTube in the afternoons. And if you want to call and participate live, make sure you're subscribed, got the notification bell, and you'll know when I go live on my podcast. But also, I do upload the podcast to all podcast platforms. So go to any podcast platform and search for The Brian Craig Show, and it'll come up. We're going to take our last break and be right back. All right, we're back. I'm Brian. It's the Brian Craig Show podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Let's take a couple more calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. It's JJ from Mass.
Hey, JJ. What's up?
Well, good little show. I'd say great little show today. The comment that you just made that you believe we're the most corrupt. I had said that on the radio program. I mean, we are the most corrupt country.
Oh, yeah.
We are. And, Michael Cohen talking about they're up against a machine. They're up against the truth. We voted the woke smoke the hell out. Mm-hmm. We voted the truth in. And it's just another, listening to Pete Hegseth say that, it doesn't, as much as it is surprising, it's really not. It's more of the status quo of what the Democrats have. Everything the Democrats do, it's a production. It's behind. They've got the actors with the makeup, and
yep.
then there's behind the curtain.
It's always they're always scheming. It's always a scheme.
There's always a double entendre, a double meaning, a double. they don't do anything for the sake of good. They do it for the sake of themselves. And you just think back to all the times. I don't know how many times I heard stories going back, 10 years ago, 15, whatever, about how this government agency was hacked or that government agency was hacked. And, all you got to do is you get into one and then you filter in throughout all the agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Chinese probably know more about our country than half of America does with all the free spies and computer, hackers they've got. It's basically good and righteous versus evil and mean.
Well, yeah.
Democrats,
I started the show today. If you missed the beginning of the program, rewind and listen to the first segment or two. This story with Giuliani, there's a good chance it was a hit job. If you look at this story, there's a woman in distress on the side of the road. He pulls over to help her, and then he gets rear-ended by a young woman from behind and almost killed.
Yeah, it's I think pretty sure that was like on 293 or right around Manchester somewhere. That's a pretty, I was going to say prone to accidents. I mean, I'm thinking there's a possibility of what you said, Brian. Absolutely.
Come on. How many men out there listening have seen a damsel in distress on the side of the road that you pulled over to help, that needed a man to help, and then you get rear-ended by another woman? Come on.
Well, if I see a really good woman, a crazy good-looking woman in a car on the side of the road in like the middle of, I'll call 911, but I'm not going to stop because I almost assume it's a setup.
That's right.
I assume it's a setup. Now, Giuliani wasn't driving the car, though.
Yeah, but he was, but he good chance he told. Do you think the guy pulled over without Giuliani saying pull over and help her?
I'll concede there's a possibility.
Absolutely. Hold on a second. It's highly likely. Is
it a busy travel weekend? You said this before.
No. It's not about the travel. It's a busy. Yes, I'm talking about a damsel in distress on the side of the road. Listen, men have all these fantasies, right? Right, and one of those fantasies is the is the hot woman who needs help broken down on the side of the road or something.
Yeah, if you can. But like I said, listen, I'm not agreeing with you 100%. I'm not denying.
We don't know.
Of it either. We don't know. Yeah, more information would help. That's the.
And then immediately they said it wasn't, and immediately, while he's still in the ER, they released it wasn't a hit job. Really? There wasn't an investigation. How do you know what it was?
It wasn't on purpose. Well, probably because the 19-year-old girl, maybe they deduced that she had 5 bottles of vodka in the seat.
No, this guy.
When we get more info.
I don't buy any of it. Giuliani, he took down the mob, so he's got. There are still people pissed at him about that, and he's the one who found the laptop from hell.
Well, you got a lot. Listen, the way you lay it out, Brian. The way you lay it out, I'd say there's a very good possibility. But there's also the other side of it. So I just think more information. I look at it like time, information.
Yeah, somebody in the live chat on YouTube with this thing, it's like Christy Brinkley in National Lampoon's Vacation. That's like a man's fantasy. The hot woman on the side of the road needs. Come on. Oh, she's broken down or flat tire. Come on. How many times have you seen a movie where a guy pulls over to help, and then next thing he's clocked over the head by a crowbar from her boyfriend or something? No, this is a very common thing.
The thing about that is that with the intelligence of the people we have in our government and other governments around the world, that men still fall for that stupid.
Well, we know Giuliani fell.
Swalwell with the ching-ching-jang.
Exactly. And Giuliani fell for the honeypot with Borat in that movie a couple years back.
Yeah.
She got him in a hotel room, remember?
Well, that's all the more reason for him to know that. So maybe it was real, because the information you just gave there was, I think Giuliani is a guy who makes a mistake but then learns from it. So, that evidence, but still,
a lot of these guys can't control their penis and their urges, okay?
Okay, that's funny.
That's true.
Yeah, they can't. It happens. I mean, it amazes me every time I hear about a honeypot. I mean, you've got to have a fairly decent knowledge your likability, hunk status.
I talk about this sometimes. When I do a personal appearance or I'm on our cruise with listeners, and you see pictures with me, if I don't take pictures with women alone, ever. And if you see one, it's because she ran up and grabbed a selfie real quick. And usually my hands are in my pockets at the time when I take a picture with a woman, even when there's other people in it. Okay,
yeah.
So
they can write their own narrative. Once they get the picture, once you get a picture,
Trump and Stormy Daniels. Look at that.
Story you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Photographs mean you've had sex with them, right? That's what they tell you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. All right, take care. Good to hear from you. All right, on this Labor Day, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. This is Barbara. You from Baltimore.
Hey, Barbara.
I took a moment off of my gym walk to tell you that you have a great show this morning.
Thank you.
And I had to respond. I was on the treadmill when your local idiot called in.
Which one?
Really has nothing.
Her
name is Renee.
Oh, Renee from Harlem.
Yes,
Renee from Harlem. Okay.
The liberal.
Yes.
The worst thing that happened to the country is freaking liberal. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know you had a great show going on. And as of this morning, 25 red state governors have deployed their National Guards. So in Tennessee, we're going to be able to go back to Memphis and Nashville again and walk those streets in safety. I am so excited about that. And I know President Trump probably listens to your show. So I just want to remind him that since Maryland is a blue state and he's getting rid of the criminals in D.C., they're coming across the water. They're coming across the Potomac, and they're in Maryland. So he's going to have to stick it to Westmore because we got a dumb egghead.
Westmore, Stolen Valor, Westmore,
Yeah, Stolen Valor, Westmore. But anyway, you have a great rest of your day.
All right.
I decided I'm going to do my 50 miles in 3 days walk for
Oh, my goodness.
sclerosis. So I started my training.
50 miles in 3 days?
It's a very good.
How many hours a day of walking is that? How many hours a day of walking?
Well, you start at, it's a lot because I've got to be able to do at least, you work up to where you're doing 8-10 miles easy.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I mean that's just got to be a walk in the park.
Yeah.
You could do 8 to 10, and then you got to stretch it out to do the whole. At least be able to do 23 in a day.
Oh my goodness!
The first day is 23 miles, and then the second part of that is broken up. So.
That's tough.
It takes training, but it's just such a good feeling. I got to talk to so many people with multiple sclerosis, got to understand the disease. I did it because my son's best friend in high school, his mom had it, and it was misdiagnosed. It used to be misdiagnosed so much, and women suffered more.
It's god awful. My wife has a friend that has MS, and it's a mess. It's a terrible thing to have, and people get it later in life. Yeah.
But they've got great medicines now.
Yes.
They're doing a lot of research on it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of steps have been made. So that's why it's just, it's one of those things that I think I'm going to do one more time before I close my eyes for good, just to prove to myself I can do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Barbara, it's good to hear from you, and good luck.
Good show.
All right, take care. Appreciate it. Now, if you'd like to support my content, my podcast, everything I do, become a Patreon supporter. If you become a Patreon supporter, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description of this episode and on every episode. If you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to commercial-free editions of all of my podcast episodes, okay? All of them. Commercial-free, boom. Like this episode. When this episode is done, I'll go and I'll edit out the commercials and upload it to Patreon, okay? So you guys get access to commercial-free editions of all podcast episodes if you're a paid Patreon supporter. You also get access to a lot of exclusive things that my wife Kathy and I both post to the Patreon page that we post nowhere else. And if you become a top Patreon supporter, you get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode of the podcast, and you get your name up on the screen on YouTube. So the names you'll hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank them all. SFjr, Christine. Some of these are familiar names that you may see in the chat from time to time. SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, Janice, and my newest top Patreon supporter, Teresa. Thank you all. These are my top Patreon supporters. Again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the episode description, and the direct website address is patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow. Patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow. Again, make sure you follow and subscribe to the program. My name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.